I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
We humble ourselves before you. We forsake our former coven to join you. Dust to dust, clay to clay. Didn't anyone tell you queens aren't allowed to cry? Yes, we are talking Netflix's Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Season 3, Episode 5. Chapter 25, The Devil Within. And by we, I don't just mean me, it is us three. The Coven of Covens, the panel of hell. Yes, we are fully alive. Hail Judas, hail Satan, hail Lilith, hail Sabrina, hail Caliban. At this point, I don't even know who to hail. Hail everybody.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Anyone's alive, we're hailing
Hail
you.
Zelda. Hail pagan gods, you know? Hail Pan. So many people to hail. We're going to be breaking down this episode as thus. We're going to talk about Nicholas's rehab detox, Agatha's mind, or lack thereof. Corcosa is Pan. Pontius Pilate and his bowl. Hilda is becoming a spider. That reminds me of Peter Parker. Theo and Robin kiss and tell. Or do they? Nicholas and Sabrina go back to the way they were. Not. Satan's Loose, our special segment, The Dark Design, where we break down parts of the episode that we researched within. And of course, our on-point predictions. As always, you're going to want to stay tuned and stick around for that. Panel. To my left's left, we have the Queen of the Damned, Veronica.
Hello.
To her right and yet my left, the Queen of Souls, Ashley. And of course, I am the Dark Lord Tehran. Yes. Muha, muha, muha. Hail Satan.
We need to work on it.
Muha. You have to, there has to be, like, you have to
take it
work
in.
on that laugh. Yes. That was actually scary, even though you didn't intend it to be. That's how I
that
feel
was
about
just a
Veronica.
laugh.
Yeah, I know. That's why it was so scary. That's it right there. What were your overall thoughts on this, what we're breaking down as Season 3, Episode 5, Chapter 25, The Devil Within? Sabrina's.
Yeah. I'll be honest. It was a good episode, but I think it's come to that point in the season for me where, for me personally, there's so much going on, and I have a tendency to prefer one storyline over the other. So I am very invested in this storyline with the Coven and the pagan gods who have come in. I am less invested in Sabrina being Queen of Hell and everything that's going on with Caliban, who I still don't think is that dynamic of a character because we haven't seen much of any of him really. So I personally feel like the Pagan Gods could have been its own season, and then Sabrina running this unholy regalia could have been another season.
I really enjoyed it. The egg finally came to play, so I'm happy about that. And I love that the Dark Lord is testing people's loyalties in this episode, and we're kind of seeing what happens when the Dark Lord comes back and everyone's and what fear does to people. So it's like tested people to their limits this episode.
Well, I'm actually really enjoying the multiple storylines that are coming out. If I had to pick a storyline that I could do without, it would be the Nicholas storyline. I'm over Nicholas and Sabrina's undying love for him, and he's over it. Sabrina, we're just going to have to move on. I don't know how many people are still shipping that, but I know Veronica's heart is broken.
I am still shipping it, and I am biased because I do love Nick and I do love Sabrina, but I agree. I think that over the next couple of episodes, we don't need to see them. I think kind of what was said now has been said. And if it were to come back, the finale. But for the next few episodes, I'm okay with that.
I think that everything is going to get tied up very nicely in the finale. We are at episode 5. We have what we know 3 more. There might be even more. However, as far as we know, there's 3. So I'm excited to see how they all tie up. I like the Queen Challenge. I wish there was more of it, actually, that it was the stakes felt higher. At some points, the stakes seem almost too easy to retrieve these lost items that have been lost for millennium, and no one's ever, these most powerful of all artifacts, and yet people couldn't find them, and yet everyone finds them within 20 minutes.
She just hoards them and doesn't even return them to hell. I'm like, Sabrina,
let's go to hell, let's turn them in, and then come back and do everything you have to do.
Yeah. It's an interesting storyline. I just think because it's like a minor storyline going on with everything else, that it's just kind of brushed to the side. I think it could have been further developed had it been given the spotlight.
And Ambrose needs to stop using all the artifacts. I just need to borrow this for like 2.5 hours, and I promise. Like, Ambrose, let her win. If Sabrina wins, a lot of their problems get solved. So I would just move on with that. However, I see how it's playing out. We do see a lot of recurring tropes, so I hope we don't get the same thing happening over and over again. We keep hearing this line, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you tell me? Why would, well, you know what? Why didn't you just tell people? Let's speak up. We all know how to speak. We all speak. Let's just talk. Hey, right now, I guarantee you, if one of them needed to pee, they'd be like, hey, I gotta go pee.
Right.
Well, let's say, hey, I'm turning into a spider. Hey, Satan's free. Let's start using that kind of urgency when it comes to communication. But it's all making for a fun, interesting, exciting season. And nothing's more exciting than watching Nicholas rehab and detox. He's going through a cleanse. It's like a Hollywood cleanse.
What I liked about this storyline is we did finally kind of get that answer of, yes, there is something of the Dark Lord still within Nicholas, and it's not just the psychological trauma and the PTSD that he is experiencing. Like, there is actually something more supernatural going on, and I
Satan's
like
residue.
Exactly. I love that we got that answer.
And I do love, too, that Nick was like, that wasn't just the Dark Lord that made me say those things. I actually felt it, and he kind of just got it out of me so I could say it to you. Because I was like, oh, good, now they're going to go back to normal, and no, they're not.
Yeah, because Sabrina felt that they would go back to normal. She acted as if nothing was wrong, and she is dismissing.
Exactly.
She's dismissing Nicholas's feelings, to be very honest. She's just downplaying it as if Nicholas didn't go through anything. It's
Exactly.
like, Nicholas needs some space. Actually, I believe, Ashley, you said this last time, that sometimes Sabrina over tries, and people just need their space. Harvey needed it in season 1. Now we see Nicholas needing it in season 3. You know who doesn't need that space? Caliban, but we'll get to that as well. Nicholas's detox. Ambrose is very interesting with his off-the-top knowledge of everything.
I love it.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's fun. It's also sometimes it's very quirky, but sometimes it's a little too convenient. Maybe you should sweat a little instead of knowing a shortcut around everything.
I mean, to be honest, I understand what you're saying in that it seems too convenient, but we also forget that Ambrose was under house arrest for so many years, so what else was he going to kind of do?
And was an amazing student.
And was an
Was at
amazing
Oxford.
student, yeah. So he just, it's very fitting of his character that he would have all this knowledge and know these shortcuts.
Yeah, plus with witches, I feel like they train for a bunch of things to be ready when things happen. They're not like, oh, now he does have to go and research some things, but I like that he knows a vast amount of knowledge, because that's why Sabrina constantly turns to him whenever she's in turmoil.
Well, the other witches kind of seem pointless at sometimes. Why are there 12 of them? We only need 2. 3 at the most. Everyone else is kind of just there. None of them are doing anything in particular, but Ambrose uses his powers
They're
and
hanging out.
figures out the rehab. And also with the leeches, that's actually something we medically do, is use leeches. If you sever a limb, they would use a leech possibly to reattach it. It's actually very interesting that they still use leeches today in modern practice of medicine. So with the rehab, we see Nicholas's, he basically had what they said was laudanum, orpheum, opium, dragon's tears, red mercury, and enough to kill an army in his system with that overdose.
Which like, obviously it says something to the fact that they are witches and they have this kind of extraordinary healing ability or stamina or power or whatever it is to not die from that.
Maybe it was Satan's residue too, kind of absorbing some of the opiates in his body, because I mean, he would have been taken. I believe he would have been taken out if he didn't have something inside of him giving him a little bit more strength.
Yeah, because he does come to fairly quickly, and when he does, he's perfectly fine. Not mentally, but physically, he's perfectly fine. There's nothing left of what seems to be. I don't know. Does Nicholas go back on substances, or is he
In that
clean?
Wait, are you asking, will he go back on substances?
Yes.
I don't think so. I don't know. It depends. He might have a drink here or there, but I think in terms of, trying to mask the pain, I think he is okay. He's not going to do that anymore. I think he's going to work on himself more mentally.
I feel like it kind of acted as like a symbiote, like how Venom is, like where it kind of consumes you, but you still have your own thoughts and your own beliefs, and it's kind of like two things clashing at once. And once it's out of you, you're relieved, but you still feel it in your body. You take some time, which is why I feel like he asked Sabrina, I need some space, I need some time, I need to figure out what's going on with me, because I was tortured, it was your fault, now you're back, you're trying to coddle me, I need space. And I think I feel
It's
like
reasonable.
reasonable.
Very reasonable.
I think Sabrina needs to understand that. It's like the butterfly thing. You hold it too close, you'll crush it. Hold it too freely to fly away.
I did not like if Sabrina said Nicholas one more time.
I know.
If she was like, but what about Nick? Like, what about everything else on the planet Earth? Let's look at that. Or in hell. Or basically
Her
the
duties.
universe.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Job.
I will give her the benefit of the doubt just a little bit because,
She's 16.
well, yeah, but it's like on the outside looking in, you see how a situation should be handled. But, it's always kind of like, what will you really do once you're put in that situation? And because she is so young and she's experiencing, all this responsibility on top of like being in love for the very first time, her mindset and her focus and priority is kind of skewed a little bit.
But I'm like, you're putting all this onto Nick. What about your family? Your coven is literally powerless. They are going to be killed by
Powerless
the
and
pagans.
dying. Let's not forget there are people still sick. There
Yeah.
are snakes in beds. I mean, a lot of things are going on.
Yeah, you just met Nick. Okay, this is your family. This is your legacy. Albeit also that she's the queen of hell. These are your legacies. And you're like, I need to go check on Nick. No, you need to go to hell, return that. You need to come back, figure out what you can do to get your power back. I feel like that's why I love Nick was like, I'm a distraction. He can see that.
Yeah.
You need to focus on these duties you agreed to do. I think that's 100% fair.
It is.
I feel that Sabrina is clearly distracted. I would like to see her take more of a role, and hopefully with Nicholas removing himself, we're going to see Sabrina do more. I think that we're also distracting Ambrose and everyone else when it comes to Nicholas. I mean, that's time that you could be spent setting up these rocks sooner so that Agatha doesn't come and break them because the Dark Lord basically corrupted her and manipulated her into doing so. There's a lot of things that all happen. And when it comes to Sabrina's journey, she's still on this unholy quest. And we have to get that bowl. So I think Nicholas has become a distraction, not only for Sabrina, but for myself as audience.
I like that because you notice right after that happened, she went in like, do you need extra hands? Now she's focused.
Yeah.
Now we're going to see the powerful Sabrina that we know and love because she's not being distracted by something.
When I saw that, I also was thinking, I wouldn't trust anyone. Everyone's a glam to me now. Like, everyone's not who they say they are.
As Sabrina, you would know everyone's a glam?
No, I'm thinking anytime someone comes in, I'm
don't
like,
trust 'em?
are you really Sabrina? Or are you just the Dark Lord in glam? Or are you Hilda in glam? Or who are you right now?
It's honestly the worst spell in this entire show because it is such
don't know.
trickery. Yeah.
It is. And I remember it presenting itself as a problem for me and Harry Potter as well.
Would you guys say it's tricky?
Yeah.
So then Agatha's mind is actually very tricky as it's being scattered, and we see that Prudence is entering her sister's mind, and she has been destroyed.
Can I say that Prudence is one of my favorite witches? I just love
Prudence
how
is amazing.
I love Prudence.
she's focused, she's driven, she would be afraid, but she's fearless at the same time. She's like, I'm gonna go with my sister's head. When she loves someone, she's not distracted by anything. She's going to it. She's a mission. She's like, I'm gonna kill my father. I'm gonna kill my father. She would have killed him if Ambrose didn't stop her. I just love her drive.
I love her drive, and I also like how honorable she is. Obviously in the beginning, Prudence did come across as kind of a bully, but even she knows what, when enough is enough and when to not cross that line.
I've always been a Prudence fan. Prudence is bae, so it's very
love the
simple
Weird
for
Sisters?
me. I love the Weird Sisters. Prudence is my main, and then Agatha and Dorcas are on the side, and I love them. I love them. So Prudence is always going to be one of my favorites. And of course, with Prudence going into Agatha's mind, we see what's going on in some ways with Agatha and what Prudence feels that she has to do.
And it was a key, because through that, Ambrose was like, oh, we're not just dealing with regular pagans. We're dealing with the best of the best. We need to step it up. We need to figure out how we can get our power back.
And it's scary. It's scary because they are powerless. And they haven't... I can only imagine what it feels like to be super powerful and then become powerless. Because let's not forget, they were empowered. They've only known a life of being immortal in which...
Exactly. And it's even scarier because obviously Sabrina had her own stuff to deal with, but they were so powerful and they didn't have anything to worry about. Now they're completely powerless and they have everything to worry about with these new pagans coming in.
Exactly.
And they used their last bit of power well, it worked, but to summon the other witches to come to be their assistants. So now they completely either have no powers or very, 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 very little left. And now the Dark Lord is free. So it's like they can't win if they can't win. For
Yeah,
losing.
and the Dark Lord is so petty, going around just being like, well, you betrayed me, so I'm just going to kind of lure you into all this madness
I'm going
and
to
destruction.
ruin you.
Basically, yeah.
Ruin everyone. He has no remorse. He's like, these witches turned their back on me. This coven turned these morals. I'm coming for blood.
And
Blood.
what do we think of the Dark Lord just being free?
I think it's dangerous because, he's not. Obviously, Zelda in a couple episodes ago was considering, trying to work with the Dark Lord again so that they can take on this new enemy. However, him being free is it's such a wild card because, he can be a threat to the pagans. He can also be a threat to the actual coven.
I liked it when I thought Sabrina was going to make a truce with him, but I also feel like it's gonna be one of those things where it's the pagans versus the coven, and then the Dark Lord comes and saves the day, so that he's like, this is why you need to bow to me, because without me you will fail. I think he's using this as a teachable moment. Like, when you do something bad and your parents are like, oh, this is a teachable moment. I think he's using this as a teachable moment. You guys need me.
I can also see that.
I think he's getting revenge. He wants to kill all of them. He sent Melvin and Elpseth in order to get. He knew they were going to be slaughtered, and he watched. He is like, you have abandoned me. I will show you what that means.
He's vengeance.
I think it could be
that's
both.
because he's Lucifer.
Yeah.
Lucifer is all about vengeance.
I think it could be both. I do think that there is a lot of vengeance in there, but I also think as a character he has a lot of pride. And like you were saying, Ashley,
Sure.
he would
Another Lucifer trait.
want to
Who's
kind of
gonna
show the
praise him
coven
if
like,
everyone's dead?
yeah, you need me.
Well, he has other coven. This isn't the only coven.
True.
There's an entire.
But they're the strongest coven, right?
This is the Coven of Night. I don't know. We don't know much about. We're hearing once again the story from their point of view.
True.
There's a bunch of
Other
different covens that worship the Dark Lord as well, and more importantly, because it would be sad if the Dark Lord only had 40 people that worshipped him, right?
Yeah.
And then now there's down to 12.
This is it.
Was it all of hell is for you 12 people? Which is, once again, is possible.
Now it's gonna be 24 in hell.
There are other covens that exist, and of course we have the witches, as we see, get summoned, who are exiled witches, but they still have ties to the Dark Lord. I wonder how their powers are being affected, or if they are at all. We do see that Pan is now we know Corsica is actually Pan, the god of Greek mythology god of the wild, shepherds flocks, plays the Pan's flute, and is basically this creature. We see the legs. Now we understand that this is the coven is made up of gods. And some that aren't, because Sabrina says something, some have powers, some don't.
But I was kind of hoping that we'd be able to see everyone's
So
powers.
would you think it's gods and worshippers?
I actually just think it's the gods. I think that Sabrina was wrong. Simply because even when she said, I was like, okay, but then Robin displayed powers.
Which I wanted to see his.
Yeah.
Which
I still think we will.
I'm very curious about Robin now at this point, just because of his whole backstory saying how he was adopted.
Yeah, and he's falling out of, falling out of belief
Goes
with
back
this.
to loyalties. People are shifting.
God.
They're shifting where they want to be opposed to where they feel they have to be. I'm excited. I'm happy that I remember we were like, I don't know about Robin, but he's actually
Now you're liking Robin because he simply said, "Let me tell you first." Doesn't believe in all the things. I don't believe in all the things they do.
I just didn't want
Team
Robin to
Robin.
hurt Theo. That was my big thing, and it looks like there's more complexity to him, where that may not be.
Well,
that's
we
not
see a
gonna be the
similar
case.
storyline in season 2 with Nicholas and Sabrina, where Nicholas is charged with basically betraying Sabrina in a way and bringing her close by the Dark Lord, and then falling in love with Sabrina, and then out of love with the Dark Lord, which is what led him to this. And so maybe a similar situation is happening with Robin. Let's not forget, Robin is betraying his family for this, and at least the beliefs that he was programmed to believe.
right. Which he said, as I've gotten older, I'm starting to believe that they're wrong.
Yeah, and doesn't believe all the things that they do.
Right.
And I did like his backstory when it's like, we traveled around, we moved around a lot, we were in the military. Yeah, that was good. So we get this Pan point, and we also get another to the religious artifact of Pontius Pilate's bowl. This is the charge of if Israel and Palestine at the time where Jesus was and is the one who we also see Barbaros.
Yep.
Barabbas is there.
Barbarous.
They were saying it. They were saying Barabbas. Is that how they pronounced it?
I think so.
it's
Barabbas.
Barabbas. Actually, the historical pronunciation would be Barabbas. But I mean, if you're gonna go with an English version,
Like a Western pronunciation.
Sure.
But they were in
Barabbas.
Jerusalem.
They were in Golgotha. Yeah, they're there. They're like there. So Pontius Pilate, of course, on the behest of the people, frees Barabbas, who in this version is a thief, and basically is the one who dooms Jesus, Isa, and then later we see the crucifixion. I think we got a glimpse of the spear of destiny that was in the guard's
Yeah, he looked like he was going to throw it, and then he just
Yeah.
kept running with it. So
the spear of destiny being the spear that basically it cuts Jesus's flesh, you know, and then leading to the crucifixion when he's like still moving. So it was interesting to watch all of these come to play, this religious artifact. I did think that they kind of shortchanged us on the Golgotha. It just looked like
Like it was
rocks.
rushed.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying by so many things going on is I liked bringing in kind of this historical context to the show, but I think had it gotten its own episode or had, like I said, this whole unholy regalia had its even just a block of episodes, maybe not necessarily a whole season, it could be more detailed and not feel so rushed and feel like it's on the sidelines.
Like we could dive in a little bit more and not feel like we're rushing in, we're doing this, and now we're gone.
Yeah.
Especially something like you mentioned earlier, like these are sacred things that people for years have not been able to achieve, and now Sabrina's going in and then she's out. It's like, where's the, I want to see her work.
Where's kind of like the fight or the
Yes,
struggle?
Yes. Also, she must have a lot of power left because she is able to still do the glam and do like a bunch of other things. So.
Yeah, we never really talked about Sabrina and how she feels. If she feels weaker in her power, maybe not because she's the queen of hell, and maybe that has some kind of tie-ins with her strength, whereas the Coven was just getting their strength from the Dark Lord.
And she's a direct descendant of the Dark Lord, so like I think some of it is within her anyway.
Yeah.
So I feel like she doesn't have to. She has a little bit more than everybody else does. I think her being half, she's a little bit more than what everybody else does.
I mean, I would think so, but we don't really know. They're not really examining that as much. I wonder, even something as simple as when Hilda does the glam at the last when she sees Dr. C, where did she get that power from? Does she still have some power? Does
what I'm wondering.
Sabrina? It's not very clear how drained they are.
True.
Yeah. Maybe it's also the complexity as well. Obviously, the summoning of, wayward witches calls on a lot of magic. Maybe a glam is like a baby spell and doesn't require a whole lot of energy.
Whatever it is, we do see that when it comes to the Holy Grail, the unholy quest, we see that now we have to get the bowl of Pontius Pilate, and that bowl is the one where he washes his hands. We go to Gothica, and it's basically the place of the skulls where they're imprisoned, and it's in a time loop. And we finally get to use the egg, at least the egg water. Right, so now we know the egg has some power of time and warping time and something of that nature, and then we get to get the water.
Which scares me of what the beast is inside there. If just the water is that powerful, I can't imagine what the beast is.
I wonder if that ties in with what
Is happening to come.
Father Blackwood was saying with the pagans, or if even that's something completely different from the three other storylines we have going on right now.
Yeah, and I wonder why Golgotha is in this time loop. Why is Golgotha in the time loop? What's the specific reference to this day happening over and over again to the point that the Barabbas is aware of it,
Right.
and knows that it's happening over and over again.
And he said every 100 years someone comes.
And of course, a glam saves the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Sabrina uses a glam and is able to get the bowl away from Pontius Pilate.
Yeah.
So. And leaves Caliban, who, by the way, we get a foreshadow of, your lover is doomed, and there's and he makes a little flirty statement.
I don't
He says,
like
you're too beautiful for scars.
I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of it. Maybe that opinion will change should they ever go that direction. But the thing about Caliban, too, is that it was an interesting dynamic because he volunteered to take the whipping and not Sabrina. And I feel like this is, once again, Sabrina coming in where, you know, Caliban was made from clay, and he's essentially made to be evil, you know. He's not to have any kind of humanity or sympathy, but he does that.
He's the anti-Adam.
Yeah, and but the one little thing, it could be one little thing, Sabrina will be like, he deserves some type of saving.
Well, she does have, we know this now, it's been pointed out that she has a hero complex.
Yeah.
She has savior complex. So here we see she leaves Caliban, but I personally thought that might have been part of his plan, is to discredit Sabrina by being the one who takes the high road and comes back and says, I waited the 2,000 years, I'm from clay, I came back, and then somehow still got freed, even though it's supposed to be a time loop. I'm not going to question that. And says, that's what I did.
He can essentially say whatever he wants and twist it in his favor at this point, I feel.
Yeah, he said she cheated. I'm like, well,
Didn't you cheat the first time?
Yeah.
So, like, it's the pot calling the kettle black. But I thought it was interesting because he's made of clay, but he's showing human qualities. Like, when she says, do you have any honor? And his face, like, he was like, then he's probably thinking, like, do I have honor? Where's my honor? But I think Sabrina saying that is why he stayed to get the lashes. I don't know if he would have originally. I think he was plotting on how he could get out of there. But I think Sabrina has a way to say things to people where they resonate, where they change their minds very, very quickly.
And then we get this storyline where, okay, so we get the bowl and Sabrina's won the second plot. And then we get the storyline of Hilda becoming a spider. She was cursed in the last episode.
Which, I was trying to think about it too. Why curse her as a spider?
Because she was trying to capture the spider to make a pet, and that offended.
Because I was gonna say, like, she wasn't gonna kill the spider as Nicholas did the snake, so I didn't see it as anything bad. But I now that you say it that way, yeah.
Because she goes, the spiders, they're my pet, and she's like, you wouldn't know what a spider felt like, and then she touches her arm and says a spell and uses the word arachni, and assumingly is injecting her to becoming a spider. I mean, we've seen her, and by her, I mean the entity that we're not specifically certain if this is the Circe, because she does turn the boys into swine. So it's interesting also exhibiting these powers of such. But it's interesting to that she's obviously has this affinity towards nature, which the pagans witches seem to do and have.
It's like some of them have multiple deity powers within them that they can use at will. But yeah, she told...
Because we get the Medusa. This one's kind of the Circe, but changes one to a spider. Then we get the Pan, who's, you know, who's basically a satyr and has the Pan's flute. So we get these nods to these Greek mythological creatures.
I was going to say, too, because there's only 3 of them, they could be a culmination of multiple gods and multiple... deities. If there were more of them, I would say, okay, maybe they're writing them as individuals, but I feel they could be a culmination of
I don't know if they're combining, because so far we just seeing them exhibit singular powers.
Right.
So I don't think they're combining. I just wonder who else is there. Who else is amongst them?
Who's going to come forth?
Yeah, what other minor gods are we going to have? So what other mythological creatures are going to be with them? Is one going to be a siren? Is one going to be a centaur?
See, I don't know. I mean, granted, they're not necessarily in close proximity, but I find it interesting that you bring up sirens here on, just because if there was a siren in the midst, I feel like they would be severely affected by the
tuning fork?
The tuning fork, yes.
Well, possibly. I mean, we'll see how that plays out, and that might actually be why they bring up the tuning forks. I don't know, because we also see that the Satan residue is going to be used to protect the Coven as well. And we get this plan with the tuning forks. We get these rocks, and we bring the rocks, and they're trying to do it, but Agatha's let loose. And because Satan is now manipulating everyone. So first he manipulates Melvin and Elpsis deaths. Then he goes on to manipulate Harvey into attacking the carnival.
That was going to be my thing, too, so he manipulated Harvey to attack the carnival. I was almost wondering, I don't know if Harvey would go down this road, But Harvey is descended from witch hunters, so I was almost going to think, is he going to try and have Harvey fill out what the witch hunters did to the previous coven, since he is trying to get revenge for his coven betraying him?
Oh, using Harvey as the witch hunter.
Yeah, to kind of
show what happened, similar to what happened with the last coven.
I'm surprised they didn't do anything to Harvey. She just let Harvey go.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Well, they need Harvey.
Coven, this new coven.
They, for whatever reason, they
they're
need
not
Harvey.
actually really good at catching people who run.
No,
for some
they
reason.
just, like, let
anyone
them
who
go.
runs, anyone who runs, they
let them go.
But that's a sense of arrogance when you are the ones who are
in power.
We've seen that before. We actually have seen that from the 13 in season 1, where they would also just. People who ran were kind of, because they thought eventually they would be victorious. It's the, I call it the Borg scenario, where it's resistance is futile. You will be assimilated, and they just go at a slow pace. It's like even Jason from the movie 13, like it's a life lesson. If you keep going, it doesn't matter how slow you're going. As long as you're going in a direction, you will catch up to everybody. It doesn't, like, he doesn't ever run at all. Just walks, like not even fast.
Sprinting.
Can't even cut corners.
They're
like
sprinting, and then here's Jason. I'm like, how?
Yeah, and that's how it works. So whenever someone runs, and Harvey runs, and even Roz was allowed to escape, even though she does clearly become stone. But it wasn't as fast as Dorcas became stone.
Yeah, that was also something interesting. Was it took Roz was having some kind of weird feverish symptoms before she.
And it could have been a
turned
protection
to
by
stone.
the cunning. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. Was maybe, but then again, Dorcas was a witch, so wouldn't they also have some kind of protection? But
They have no powers,
I'm not sure.
so.
I am not sure.
And they're creating this new, the god. They're bringing it back, the Green Man. What do we think about that? What is the Green Man?
It looks like it's symbolic of like Earth and everything that is like the whole entire Earth and everything that because they're very big on like treating the Earth, and this is like our main deity, and it looks like it's just compiled of a bunch of Earth, which is like the strongest thing we have.
Yeah, like branches, trees, everything that there could be.
Is it Gaia? Earth, Gaia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's more to it, and we'll get to that when we get to our special segment, The Dark Design. So overall thoughts on this show, what are we leaving out? Any tidbits that need to be spoken of? Let's go through and make sure we've touched on everything, because so much happened, and yet it's definitely a bridge into the finales as we're getting into. I think we're going to get this arc right now in episode 5 and then possibly 6, with 7 setting it up for this huge 8th finale. Right? So I feel like these are all bridge episodes that are just setting up a lot of storylines. Yeah. Let's get into our special segment, The Dark Design. So let's go over a lot of things that we discussed in this episode. Pontius Pilate, of course, was the 5th governor of the Roman province of Judea. What we're thinking of is now is Israel and Palestine, serving under Emperor Tiberius. And we're going into, and they even mention Adi Domini, which is the first year. Remember, there's no year 0. So we go into this where it's the year of the Lord Christ. Here, Pontius is known specifically as the official who presided over the trial of Jesus and ordered his crucifixion. That's what he went down in history for, right? His importance in this Christianity is basically all the most important thing, and it's definitely undermined his prominent place in both the Apostles and the Nicene Creeds, right? So this is what he's known for. We get him. We also get Pan, the god. It's an ancient Greek religion and mythology. Pan, of course, is the god of the wild, shepherds and flocks, nature and mountains and wild, rustic music, which we got to see a little about, and Promptuous, and of course, is the companion of the nymphs.
Yep.
He has those hindquarters, those legs he's famous for, the horns of a goat, and in the same manner, and it's also what we think of in the look of, by the way, of Satan and Lucifer with those legs and the horns. It's actually a derivative of this, and basically Pan's counterpart, Faunus, a nature god, and we get that mythology. It's good to see that come play. It's this, and especially since it's so utilized in neo-paganism. Another one is, of course, Barabbas. That goes back to Pontius Pilate. That is the person who was freed at the Passover feast in Jerusalem while keeping Jesus as a prisoner. That is, of course, a great sign of seeing Barabbas come back to play. In some texts in the New Testament, it's the canon is he's a murderer or he's this thief. Who do we keep alive? Jesus, the prophet, or Barabbas, the murderer, the thief, the horrible person, and they say Barabbas, and they free Barabbas. And And finally, Green Man. So we do actually have a Green Man, and that's a direct scripture and sculpture from made by leaves. Its branches are vines, and it comes from the mouth and nostrils. And the Green Man has the ideology of what is now modern Wicca. It actually exists in Wicca, where this variation is found in different cultures in the world and relates to all natural vegetative deities, and earth. Rebirth symbolizes rebirth and things of that nature. So it's interesting that they used all of these all in one. And it comes from, first of all, of course, we're looking at biblical canon, but now we're looking at ancient cultures and different separate ancient culture traditions. So there we have the Green Man, the foliate head, the discouraging head, and the bloodsucker head. We'll see which one comes to play. We're going to watch the Green Man appear in different churches and pagan ideologies of fertility. May lead to the reason why we have a lack of potency. We will find out. That's why we always have predictions.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Veronica, let's get into those predictions.
I think that Theo and Harvey are going to play some key part in whatever the pagans are planning, because that was kind of alluded to in a previous episode. So I'm waiting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, really quickly, one thing I love about this season is they're showing so many different religions. I mean, even within witchcraft and like Wicca and different types and paganism, I'm really enjoying like them diving into different kinds of religion. But my prediction for next week is we find out what, I always keep forgetting his name, what Robin has to offer and what secret he's going to tell to
I mean, the secret he's going to tell has to be, hey, I'm part of these people.
We don't know what his powers are.
But who is he in this group of pagan gods? Is he a pagan god?
Why was he adopted?
Interesting. I mean, we're definitely going to find that out. I think that now Sabrina's going to be a lot more focused, and we're going to get a huge clash with the pagan gods and the Coven, and that the Dark Lord is ultimately going to choose. And I don't think the Dark Lord is done with hell. Let's see how that plays out. But until next time, where can people find you if you want to be found, Veronica?
Hey everyone, you can find me, Veronica Valencia, on Twitter and Instagram at It's Me, Veronica_V.
Hey, and I'm Ashley Morgan. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Ashley Morgan, ASHLEIGHMORGHAN.
And I am Teron, literally at I am Teron. You can find me anywhere but that carnival, because I will never go there. IAMTEHRAN. And of course, hosting and paneling on a slew of other AfterBuzz after shows, because all of your favorite TV shows are my favorite TV shows too. Until next time, we are binge watching this with you. So keep up. Hail Satan. Hail Judas.
Hail Sabrina.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.